Good morning, Joe Cox Jr. with Life Made Simple, getting you through this narcissistic world. I've been doing a lot of thinking this last week, and I wanted to contemplate how is it that I can make sure everybody knows where I'm coming from on all these videos to make sure you know what I've been through. And I think this is a good video to do that, is to show you more about my background. I'm going to kind of do a fast forward from an emotional, functional, dysfunctional, everything I've gone through my life to help you know how I can help you. Whereas we have some people that grew up with one narcissistic parent, others that grew up with two, like myself. There's some that grew up with great parents and then they married a narcissist. So we all come from a different aspect of it. Bottom line is, I believe all narcissism leads us into believing that we are the problem, we are flawed, we are unlovable, we are broken, all these different things, no matter what, at what stage of narcissism you incur it. But it will destroy you from inside out if you don't know how to deal with it. And those that have gotten out of it, if you don't know how to process your way out, or once you get out, how do I heal now? How do I not regret my past? How do I go on to where, like for instance, there's several people that have written books about going through Nazi concentration camps years ago, and they wound up having quality lives. So much of our goals are trying to figure out how to get happiness, and a lot of times we believe that's the goal, and with all this narcissism, it leaves us so out of balance. We think, can we ever be happy? So just to start off with, I want to let you know I don't consider my life a happy life. I have the first 50 years of my life was a disaster. It wasn't until my wife came into my life when I was 51 years old, and that's when my life started changing. I'm now almost 60, so in the last almost 10 years, I have gone through a lot of healing, a lot of enlightenment, a lot of different things that I don't believe I'd be here today if she hadn't come back into my life. And most of you know the story, how me and my wife knew each other at 15 years old. And my mother told me I was not worthy of a girl like that. What does that do to the self-worth of a child? What does that do with the outlook? I remember one time my mother asking me, do you look forward to the future? And I remember saying no, like I'm scared of it. And it's almost like she smiled and smirked. Looking back, I can see that was her way of checking to see if she had that kind of control. So when I left home at 16 years old, I think it really surprised her that I up and left because she knew she had no more control of me. And I didn't realize that's what it was. I mean, I've got my bags and I'm leaving and I'm walking out the door. And instead of saying, "Oh, son, come back. I love you and I want," no, 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 that's not the way it went down at all. She was attacking me in every way possible, telling me she was right, that I'm just a piece of crap. And I won't say all the words, but it was just ridiculous. And her new husband allowed her to do this. So I realized, oh, he's going to come in and just help her out. I think what we call now um, the flying monkey, if you will. He was just the enabler to allow her to continue her abuse. Didn't realize that at the time that she was also doing that to my siblings. I thought it was just me. She had such hatred. So I feel like I was born into hell, and my whole childhood was nothing but hell. I was lost. I was confused. What in the world is this place I've come to? So I left home, moved into my grandmother's cinder block basement, and just tried to figure my life out. Rather than quitting school, I actually went to summer school, tried to get more skills, actually I took auto mechanics, trying to learn about cars, trying to find self-worth, took some welding classes, took auto body classes, and started trying to develop myself. I had no confidence, no self-worth, no self-esteem, and I took these in order to have something to be worthy of, to be worthy of one day, that I would be worthy of love somehow, some way. Um, the desire that I had to go to college. I asked my mother, "Why didn't you ever encourage us to go to college?" It was what I learned from my mother is there was always an excuse about everything. Why? Why is it? You know, let me tell you this one. So whenever she would attack me and my father wasn't there, she would say, "It's your father's fault. If he was here, he could protect you." Looking back, I'm like, as a kid, you just don't put the two and two together when your mind is so mixed up. But when I look back at that, it just blows my mind. She sat there and admitted that she was manipulating me and abusing my mind and spirituality, mind, body, and spirit. And she blamed it because he wasn't there to protect her. Basically, was sitting there admitting to me, and I was young, 11, 12 years old, and realized that she was admitting that she was abusing me uh, and mixing up my mind. And I still think about it. And I start stuttering because I'm so flabbergasted even today. That she sat there and admitted that she was abusing me and that she was using him not being there as an excuse. And I remembered when I asked her to go to college, you know, one, she laughed at me. And then she says, "Well, back when we grew up, people didn't go to college." And I just thought college was a new thing then. I mean, it was just nothing in the real world. In the world was I had no sense of reality of life, and not having a father in high school. I went to visit my father in alcohol rehab and stuff like that. I'm sitting there going to church, trying to do things right, trying to figure life out, and I'm being told things that are not self. It's all this altruism. Just give, 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 give it. And honestly, I had nothing to give, and so I would give trying to be happy or find myself, and I was more miserable. I'm like, why is it that I'm doing I'm doing what you're saying to find happiness, but I'm still not happy. So then it rocks on. I put myself, I get into college, I get into a marriage that's not right fit for me. The girl basically wanted to get married. My mom and my bio mother and this girl, they come together, and I never bought a engagement ring or anything. I wound up married because my mother said, "You better marry her or you'll never find anything better." And I look back and I'm like, how evil do you have to be to keep trying to lead your own child off the cliff? And then when I do fall, she laughs at me. And then my father was pretty much absent most of my life, except for the only time that I was arrested. He was behind that deal. And that's a whole story in itself. So, rock's on, and I get to my senior year. I'm 29 years old, just still trying to struggle to get through college. I'm still broke pretty much all my 20s. I'm always broke, always struggling. And so I even joined the military, trying to get money for college. That was a fiasco because I joined the reserves, was gone for about a year, came back, and then the job I had, the MOS, was cut out. I'd have to go back for another year for training, and I'm like, it's just delaying my schooling, and so I didn't wind up getting any money for college, the VA. So I'm like, I feel like I'm always falling through the cracks. I'm like, oh, when I went to try to get a grant for school, I didn't realize my mother, this is back when I was 20, 21 years old. I was not living with my mother, but she was filing me on her taxes. And so did not qualify for college money, college grant money. Um, I look back and I'm like, I'm blown away how both of these parents through the years just sit there and cause their children to have life much more difficult, much harder than it needed to be. Life is not designed to work against us. And I realize now, I always thought life was it's just there to beat us down. Because when you have narcissistic parents, especially growing up, even one, two, or boyfriend, girlfriend, spouse, you start feeling like life is designed just to destroy you, just to beat you up. Once I got all the toxicity out of my life and started focusing on it's really not. That's just why I love to come out to the country. Life can be a beautiful thing once you get the toxicity out of your life. So I'm here at 30 years old. I decide now I'm not going to have anything to do with my parents. For 5 years, I basically have little to nothing to do with them. I get into real estate and bam, 12 hours a day, 6.5 days a week, I'm working. I'm started dating somebody and my career is great. But what do you think happens? Yes, the narcissism comes back into my life once again and just it's like I can't even pick the right people for myself to date because now looking back, I realize I still didn't have any self-love, self-worth. So, excuse me. So what happens is now when I get to be a millionaire at 35 years old, I'm like, okay, this is what they've always said. You get to be a millionaire, everybody will love you, and it'll fix all your problems, that sort of thing. Nothing like that happened. Matter of fact, just the opposite. I wrote to my mother trying to reach out for her to validate me, and she just trashed me in a 3-page letter, telling me how worthless I couldn't believe that I was even still living, basically. She all but said, "Why don't you just kill yourself?" That's what I read. That's what I heard when I read it, and it just caused me to go into deep, dark night of the soul. I'm like, "What is God evil? Does he just throw us into this crap to where I can't even win?" So that's what it is. Narcissists set you up to where you can't win, and you think you just see everything as darkness, as in dark night of the soul, and it just and nothing matters. I can have my lights turned off even though I had plenty of money to pay the bill because I forgot to even pay the bill because nothing mattered. You lose contact with reality, and that's what happened with me. I completely just, and I started making horrible decisions, and one thing at a time, and slowly I had to get out of real estate. I couldn't sell anymore because all of the toxicity and the hardship. My mind was, I'm like, everything I touched before turned to gold, and now everything I touch now turns to crap. And I'm like, what is going on? Why is it this way? Why is life so hard? Looking back, life was never hard. It was these people that intentionally misled me, that tried to trip me up. Anytime I had something good, they would come back and take the good away from it. Any good moments, they'll rob you of them. Any achievement that you have, they'll degrade them. And it's amazing. And what I find, there's not a ton of people that have total self-love and self-awareness where they can go and be really happy for somebody else. I don't, my wife can, and my immediate sphere that I have now seems to be very happy with all my successes and things. But my extended family, none of them have reached out. None of them have really said congratulations or I'm proud of you or anything like that because it baffles me. But anyway, let's get back to it. So now I'm in the deep night of the soul. I'm I'm falling. I'm falling. Meanwhile, just before I'm trying to look at the, let's see. Yes, I'm in deep night of the soul, and now about a few years later, I realized that's when my brother came home, and we were going to have his 30th birthday. And I've done a video on this as well, so I'll just give you the summary. But he winds up coming home instead of us celebrating his birthday. We wind up going to his funeral. He dies just 3 days before his 30th birthday. I had no idea he was a full-blown alcoholic. And looking back now, I can see clearly my father actually had bought him a bar after he was already an alcoholic and never reached out to try to help him or do anything. And bottom line is that when after we buried my brother, that was getting to one of my lowest points. So what does my father do? he goes and gets a liquor bottle and hands it to me and says, "This will help you out." Sadness just runs in this family, just pathetic. But so we after that, I continued to tumble, and I didn't realize during this time I had years earlier I had put my house into a land trust where make sure that if anything happened to me since I was single, that my brother and my father, well, my brother was I put him as a trustee, and he's the one I helped get into real estate and really helped him out. Thought he would have some gratitude for me helping him out, but instead, him and my father came together, deeded the house out of my name, out of the trust, took me off the will, did all this. It's almost like they were setting me up, and they actually, my father would sit there and encourage me to commit suicide. And when look, you can't even fathom that. But it was like little things. He knew I was struggling. We would be watching something, and they would be talking about suicide on the TV or something, and he would say, somebody said, "Oh, they attempted suicide." He's like, "People don't attempt suicide. If they really want to do it, they'll just do it." So I made sure that when my planning that if I was going to do it, I was going to do it right the first time. I wasn't going to just try. Excuse me. Um, so I'm just sitting here just thinking of all these. These are just some of the things. I'm not telling you everything. I'm just saying the things that come to my mind. And then another one would be he would always encourage me never to have kids because they were horrible. Don't have kids. Don't. I would. I tell you never to have kids. They're just no good. And what does that send a message? What kind of message does that send? But yet my brother had a daughter. He adores, worships her, goes over there and does all. And it's just the lack of awareness and the thought that they can actually chip away at the soul of their own child. And by this time, I pretty much was next to homelessness because basically now I've lost all my money. I filed bankruptcy. My father took my house. It's just I'm like, I'm still going. This is why it lasted so long because there was no intervention, nobody to help me, nobody to show me love, nothing. And when I was at the bottom, I basically said, I'm going to make one last ditch effort. Um, and so I moved to this little town and I sold my whole life in policy. The only thing I had left in my name, I said, this is my last shot on life. And I opened a thrift store for the homeless because I'd heard that, to find yourself, you got to give of yourself. And find yourself through the service of others, and that I still believe. But I think there's a little twist that we leave out is we got to take care of ourselves first. You always hear me talk about put yourself first. That's because you can't take care of anybody else unless you do, and I never knew that, so I just kept trying to give. But as soon as I opened this store, this is when this little girl that I danced with at 15 years old, the same person that my mother told me I wasn't worthy of, moved to that town, and she got a job working right behind my store, and that's how we reconnected through me trying to find donations and all. And as soon as I saw her, I hugged her, and I couldn't believe it was her, and I didn't want to let go. And I looked at her and I told her, I said, "There you are." I knew it. I can still feel the chills in my. I get chills every time I talk about it because it's so deep and so connecting that she's just the most amazing human being. And you've met her on one of the other videos, and she's going to be doing some other videos with me as well. So I just want to let you know that everything that I've been through, just know that it allows me an opportunity to help you now. I say a lot of the therapists, they do their best to try to help. There's a lot of good ones out there. But unless you've actually been through it and you've struggled through it, you really don't, you can't feel the pain. You cannot feel, you can't feel the loneliness, the isolation, all the, um, I don't like the use of the word demons, but that's kind of how it feels when you're in dark night of the soul. You just got so much negative and darkness. And I realized it never had to be that way. The parents intentionally did that, which allowed me not to have self-love, which then I'm dating women without self-love. And it's perpetual. It's generational. You know, my grandfather was an abuser. His grandfather was. It just, I'm really sad when I started looking at the reality. But what this video is about is you becoming the game changer in life. I've gone through all this stuff to where now I can reach out to you and help you understand and know that you have greatness in you. You were born the perfect you, and your goal in life is to become the best you. And in order to do that, you've got to know the steps to take. And life is, I always say this, and I've been through hell and back, believe me. And most of my life has been hell. But I can tell you now that I live in a state of happiness. I live in a state of clarity. Those are the things that qualify me to help you, is that I've been through it. I now am out of it. I don't live in that world anymore. And I'm going to help you get through that dark world. I want to give you the information through all these videos to help you find yourself, find purpose in life, find meaning, to know that everything you went through was not in vain. Your spirit grows from this. In order to be a whole being, we have to have balance of mind, body, and spirit. And I've got the book out that says that. It's Life Made Simple, Secrets to Wealth and Happiness Hidden in Plain Sight, available on Amazon. And that book right there is the steps pretty much I realized that I've never read in another book anywhere. So I put it in writing. It's only 184 pages, easy read, 5-star review so far. And I get a lot of comments from followers here that they really enjoy it. Just know how much I've dedicated my life to helping you guys. I started this channel a couple months ago. We've already got almost 1,200 followers, and I just want to let you know how much gratitude I have for you guys. And reach out with any questions or comments. Help direct me to help you. From my heart to yours, just know that there is peace and healing in your future. Blessings.